Okay, we'll start for the day. Yesterday we were discussing about nested loops and we saw the demonstration how nested loops are working. So since we have this step-by-step execution facility, we are literally able to see what exactly happens in the program in a control statement like looping statement, how the execution is happening. So that will help us to better understand the working. So what we were discussing at the end was like how many times the inner loop body will be executed if the number of iteration based on the number of iteration of outer loop and the number of iteration of the inner loop. So here the outer loop is executing 4 times for I equal to 0, 1, 2 and 3. For I equal to 4, 4 less than 4 is false, the body of the outer loop will not execute. So 4 times the outer loop is executing. And here inner loop is totally independent loop. No, it is not dependent on the outer loop at all. It has a different separate control variable j and condition is j less than 3. So and the increment is every time 1. J is equal to j plus 1. Here also every time 1 increment of the control variable by incremented by 1. Now outer loop executes for 4 iterations for I equal to 0, 1, 2 and 3. And inner loop executes for 3 iterations. So the total number of times the body of the inner loop will be executed is 4 into 3. That's what we were discussing. And we saw that literally. Okay. So we used a counter variable to count how many times the inner loop is executing. Every time it is executed, I initially count is equal to 1. So I printed 1 followed by inner loop. First time executing, then I incremented the value of the counter to 2. So next time if it is executing, it will be 2 followed by inner loop. Now the output screen is this way. Okay, you can see that outer loop is ended. First time outer loop is entered, then all the inner loop execute every time inner loop the total number of inner loop iterations are 3. Okay, so every time in outer loop is ended, all the iterations of the inner loop is happening 3 times. It is executing. Second time, second iteration of the outer loop, again inner loop is executing 3 times. So for every iteration of the outer loop, inner loop is doing all its iterations. So this is one important concept you should remember actually. So for every iteration of the outer loop, inner loop is going to execute all its iteration, all possible iterations. Okay. So if you want to literally see that, I'll just run this using our debugging. Okay. So I'll just step through this. If the watch window is also open there, watch window, or even I'll keep the output screen also. So understanding the looping concept is important. We have many programs with nested loops. So set to go F7 F7. We are entering the body of the outer loop. I is equal to 1. If you can see, I is equal to 1. I equal to 0. So I initialize I to 0. So you can see I is equal to 0. J is some random value now, 16. Because I am initializing J here. We have not executed this statement yet. Until then, there will be some random value. Count is equal to 1 because I initialized here and that statement is already executed. Now, this arrow points to the statement we are going to execute now. So, that is executed and it is true. 0 less than 4 is true. We entered the body of the outer loop. There, we are initializing the control variable of the inner loop and we are checking j less than 3. It is true. We are entering the inner loop body and inner loop body is going to execute 3 times. So third time is executed j is now 3, 3 less than 3 is false. We come out of the inner loop, and one more statement of the outer loop body is remaining, that is incrementing the control variable. After incrementing I is equal to 1, we go there, I less than 1 less than 4 is true. We again enter the inner loop, execute it for 3 times. After that we come out of the inner loop again, third time entering the inner loop, outer loop, executing the inner loop 3 times. Now I is equal to 3, 3 less than 4 is true. Fourth time, fourth iteration of the outer loop is happening. Inner loop, all its iterations are going to complete. 1, 2, 3. Now come out. Now I is equal to 4. 4 less than 4 is false. We are out of the entire nested loop. Then we are going to the last statement. And all the while, all the output was coming here. Okay. So whichever loop you are choosing, looping mechanism you are choosing, while loop or do while loop, or the next one, for loop, nested loops are possible. Nesting within a while loop, you can nest it with a do while loop or a for loop. So that mixing is also possible. And you can have 3 levels of nesting: outer loop, first inner loop, and within that another inner loop. N up to n level you can, or up to infinity theoretically you can loop, but practically your program will require 2 levels of nesting or 3 levels of nesting at most at our level. Okay, so we have one lab program that requires 3 level of nesting, that is for matrix multiplication, that we will see later. But the concept is same only. Whenever outer for one iteration of the outer loop, all the iteration of the inner loop is going to happen. Okay. Now if there is a third level, for every iteration of the middle loop, the innermost loop will be executing all its iteration like that. So this 4 into 3, because outer loop is executing 4 times, inner loop is executing 3 times. Because of that, the body of the inner loop will be executing overall 12 times. Okay, hope it is clear. If there is any doubt, you can ask me, otherwise we will move on to next topic. Next topic is for loop, the last looping mechanism. For loop. Where are we here? Okay, that program is completed. So for loop, again the purpose is same, to iteratively or repeatedly execute a set of statements. Okay, for loop also does the same job. The syntax wise slightly it is different. Okay, so your while loop was simple: while, condition, and body of the loop. This was the while loop. For loop, it is slightly different. For is the keyword, parenthesis is there, but within parenthesis we have 3 components separated by semicolon. One is initialization, one is test condition, third one is increment. In fact, for while loop also this was there. Okay, we were doing test condition here, test condition or condition testing here, but before the loop there was an initialization, and within the body of the loop there was increment and decrement also. Okay, while loop. But for loop, the difference is that initialization, test condition, increment, all the 3 we are putting it together in one line, same line, so within the parenthesis. Okay, so otherwise the functional the purpose is same, or the job it does, a loop does, is going to be the same. Only thing is that syntactically it is convenient. Here what we do is we initialize the control variable. Test condition is same as the relational expression in while loop. We check, say, I greater than 10 or I less than 10 or I less than n. Such a relational expression will come. That is same for loop also. Now here we used to do, after at the end of the while loop body, we used to do I is equal to I plus plus or I is equal to I plus something. We used to do the same, the same thing we are doing here. Only thing is that the place where we do those things are changed now. In a for loop, we do it all together in one line: initialization, test condition, and increment. But in while loop, we were doing it separately. Initialization of the control variable we did sometime before. Before going to the while loop, we did it. And test condition we are doing it here only, and increment we are doing within the body. That is the difference between while loop and for loop. As such, there is no other difference. Okay, syntactically slightly it is different. Now if I go to here, this is my simplest program with while loop, right? In fact, I was doing initialization somewhere before coming into this place. So initialization of the control variable is done here. Okay, now condition checking, I less than num I am doing here. Increment, decrement, increment or decrement based on the loop. Here it is increment. I am doing it here in the body, within the body of the while loop. The same thing if I want to do using for loop, what I do is I will initialize the variable here. So initialization of the control variable, checking the condition I less than num I will do here. Then incrementing, I will do I plus plus, both are equivalent here. And I can take the loop body as such and remove this, because that we are doing here. So this thing, line number 7 to 12, whatever it is doing, the same thing is done by this loop also. Only thing is that initialization is moved to the for statement, or we are taking initialization to the syntax of the for loop statement. And also we are taking this increment of the control variable from the body of the loop to this place. So this is, now it is concise. In one place we have all the three components. Okay, now if you want to see that, probably I'll execute both the programs, both the loops, and we'll verify that the output is same. Okay, so we have two alternate mechanisms actually, while loop and the equivalent for loop. So we'll execute only one at a time. Okay, I will comment this. I will comment this and execute. See the output. So if input is 5 times it is printing hello TM and coming out of it. Now what I will do is I will comment this and uncomment this. Uncomment means remove the comment. Now this code is going to execute. So same input I am giving, I get the same output. 5 times hello TM is printed. So for loop and while loop, actually they are doing the same task. Syntax wise there is a small difference. Okay. Now another important thing we need to remember is, we have three statements here separated by semicolon. I equal to 0, that is the initialization, checking the condition, and increment. So how many times this is going to happen, and how many when this is going to happen, or how many times this is going to happen, how many times this is going to happen. Every time when we are coming to check the condition, this will not happen. Okay, so generally how it happens is exactly same as how many times it happened here and where it happened. In this case, while loop, I equal to 0 happened only once, right? Before entering the loop, I is equal to 0 happened, then we entered the loop. So similarly, in a for loop also, this initialization will happen only once. That is first time we are going to execute the loop. So initialization is going to happen only once, very similar to this. Here also, here we have sequentially arranged. After the initialization we went to the loop. So this will be executed only once when we are executing the program one time. Similarly, initialization in case of for loop also, it is going to execute only once. Okay. After that, after initialization, next thing happening is checking the condition. Here also checking the condition is going to happen. And if the condition is true, only then the body of the loop will be executed. Okay. Now after this, what is going to happen? Whether body of the loop will be executed or this is going to happen. That is a confusion. So how it is? Exactly like this. Here body of the loop. So I am separating the increment and body of the loop. This will be the part of the body of the loop, and I am considering this as a separate part. So here first body of the loop is executed, right? So similarly, after checking condition, this will be executed. After executing the condition, body of the loop, this will be executed. So there is a clear sequence. Here it was explicit, right? The statement is put such a way that initialization happens first, then checking condition, body of the loop. After the body of the loop or at the end of the body of the loop, we are incrementing. Here also, even though we are putting all together, here also same sequence is followed. First initialization, check the condition, execute the body of the loop, then increment and repeat this, except this. This will happen only once, but executing the body of the loop may happen more than once. Checking the condition may happen more than once. This will also happen more than once. Okay, so here it is explicit. This happens only once. It is no much complex to understand. This happens only once. This is not within a loop. Initialization. This happens more than once. This also happens more than once. Body of the loop as well as incrementing. Same thing is going to happen here. Okay. So understanding that every time if all the three are executed, that means every time we are going to set I equal to 0. If that is the case, we will always end up in infinite loop. So that implies this will not happen every time. Only first time this will happen, initialization. Okay. And after that, this, again this going to happen. This will repeat until some point of time this evaluates to false. As long as this is true, this one is going to repeat. So if I have to show it in a little more organized way, or I am numbering these operations. Initialization I am numbering to 1, test condition 2, body of the loop 3, then increment or decrement 4. So in this case, 1 will happen only once, then followed by 2, 3, 4. 2 means checking condition, 3 is body of the loop, then 4. Again 2, 3, 4. Again 2, 3, 4. This is going to repeat, and until some point of time at 2 it will be false. At 2 the relational expression here will be evaluated to false. Then the loop will be exited. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, it is going to repeat until some point of time the expression 2 is going to evaluate to false. Now if I take the same thing here in a while loop, also same thing happens. Initialization only once, then 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 until 2, as long as 2 is evaluated to false, true. As long as 2 is evaluated to true, this is going to repeat. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 is going to repeat, and the moment 2 is evaluated to false, will come out of the loop. Is this clear? Understanding this is important. as part of understanding the looping mechanism, or the difference between for loop and while loop. Essentially no difference. We are rearranging the things so that this looks concise and the major things are put at one place: initialization, test condition and increment. Here we are putting it in different places. Is it clear? Any doubt? Can I safely assume? No doubt? Okay. So I assume that you have no doubt. So that is what for loop is. Only thing you need to understand is this executes only once. This will then next this will execute more than once, may execute more than once until this is evaluated false. And after this, body of the loop is executed. After that, increment is going to happen. After increment, again this will be executed. This will be executed, and then increment. Again, check the condition. Execute this increment. So instead of increment, it can be decrement also. Okay, if I, since I am starting with 0 and I am going towards a larger value than 0, I am incrementing the control variable. If I start with a larger value, then I can put minus minus. So here I am checking. Okay, here I'll check not num. I'll put 0 here. So I can, it may be decrement also. Now from I is equal to 10, I am going to execute this. 10 greater than 0, true. I am going to execute this, and then increment I, decrement I will be 9 now. 9 greater than 0 is true. I will be executing this. Similarly, it is going to execute 10 times. Overall 10 times. 10 till value of 1. I is equal to 1 is also giving me true. 1 greater than 0. After that, this will be decremented to 0. 0 greater than 0 is false. So it will be, this will be executed 10 times. So irrespective of input I am giving, 10 times hello TM is printed. So it can be decrement also based on the logic you are applying. Okay, it need not be always increment. Even in case of while loop also same. It may be decrement or increment based on how you are implementing it. Any question? Okay. If not, we will move on to something else. Jumps in loop. So for that I'll take up for loop. Is a better mechanism to demonstrate that. If people are not responding, no question asked, so I feel demotivated. Okay, I like it when you ask questions so that it reflects your interest. Now, there are two keywords in C. One is break and another is continue. Break you have already studied in case of switch statement. Break you used in switch statement to go out of the switch block immediately. After executing one block, you don't want the second block to be executed. That time you used break statement. Probably I can pick it up. Let me see where it is. Yeah, I have my calculator here. So you remember calculator program. After addition is performed, I don't want the other cases to be executed, so I put a break. That means remaining part will not be executed. We will go out of the switch statement altogether and to the remaining part of the code. So break here we used to go out of the switch statement, which is a branching, conditional checking and branching statement. Now in looping also we can use a break if we want to. In looping also we can use break. Okay. Now here also it does the same task. Break is going to do the same job. It will take us out of the loop. There it was taking us out of the switch statement. Here it will take us out of the loop immediately. Normally when the loop will end, when this expression is going to evaluate to false. That is the normal termination of the loop. But sometimes we don't want to wait for normal termination of the loop due to some unexpected scenario, some special case. If that special case occurs, I want to go out of the loop immediately. Okay. So in that case we can use break. This is actually SLE component, SLE topic, but in lab programs and all this is required, so I am teaching that now. Okay. Now, so within a switch statement, within a block of switch statement, we can use break. Similarly, we can apply break within a loop also, while loop or for loop or body of the loop, basically while loop or do while loop or for loop. Now I will demonstrate the use of that. I am going to create an infinite loop. I'm going to create an infinite loop. I'll display the value of I. Okay, every time hello, I will change to hello world. Looks awkward every time TM. So I'm going to display the value of I also. And here I am giving an infinite loop condition. Infinite loop condition. So how many times this loop is going to execute? Or how many times? How many times this loop will execute? Anybody? Why you are not responding? Such a simple question. I have explained many times. How many times this loop is? Yeah, infinite. So whatever may be the number I am entering. Okay, I did not compile the program properly. Okay. Irrespective of the number I am entering, it is going to execute infinite times, and I value keeps getting incremented. It has become 1000 in 2000s. Now soon it will become in 3000s. Okay. Now my program will never terminate ideally. So what I have to do, either I have to shut down the machine or I have to forcefully close here in this top right corner. I have to forcefully close here. Okay. Now this is like a counter, infinite counter. It is printing the count I value starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. up to infinite. It is going to count. Okay. Count and print hello world, or I'll just remove this and say counter equal to, and put a slash n so that it comes in the different line. So this is irrespective of that, it's counting, infinite counter. So I'm stopping it. Suppose when the counter reaches some certain specific value, suppose if the counter reaches some specific value, I want to come out. Okay. In that case, what I can do is I can use break statement. So if count value reaches 100, I want to come out of the loop immediately. Otherwise, ideally this will run forever, infinite times. So what I will do is I equal to 100 and put a break. Since it is only one statement, I am not using the curly braces for the if statement. Otherwise, ideally I should have used curly brace. If it is one statement, it is optional, but safety is to say for safer side we can use curly bracket also. Now we will execute. See, it is executing 100 times. from 0 to 99. Okay, so what happened? I value became 99, counter equal to 99 is printed, then I is incremented to 100. I check I is equal to 100, that condition is satisfied. We enter here, break statement is executed, we are immediately out of the loop. Okay, so break is a keyword used to prematurely exit from a loop based on when some specific conditions are met. Premature. Natural exit from the loop is when this is evaluated to false, but in this case it's an infinite loop, it will never be evaluated to false. So what I do is I prematurely exit when certain condition is met. What is that condition? I is equal to 100. So when you are doing solving a different problem, it may be different. Now this is a finite loop. It is going to execute 1000 times, but when I am executing this, it will run only for 100 times, because before 1000 comes, I value takes 1000, it takes the value 100. So because of that, it will execute only 100 times, even now also. Okay, so that is what is the use of break then? To prematurely come out of a loop when certain specific conditions are met. Okay, so normally we'll give break in a specific scenario, like after checking some condition. Without checking the condition, if I put break, what will happen? Can you assume? If I put break without any condition, the moment this is executed first time, immediately we'll go out of the loop. That means only once this will be executed. So as soon as first iteration of the loop, you enter here, print counter equal to 0, then counter is increased to 1, then immediately break is executed, you are out of the loop. So count equal to 0 comes, you are out of the loop. So whenever within a loop you are executing break, immediately the loop will be terminated. No further iterations. So if I put break here, what will happen? Even this message will not come, because break is the first statement in the body of the loop, and that is going to execute. We are out of the loop immediately. So counter equal to 0 also won't come. So break is taking me out of the loop immediately. Understood the meaning of break in the context of looping? Prematurely we go out of the loop the moment break is executed. So typically what we will do is we will put it in a if statement. If some condition is satisfied, say I is equal to 100, then you break. Without condition, if you put, only first iteration will happen. Within as the moment break is executed, you are out of the loop. Is it clear? If you understood this clearly, then we will take up the continue statement. Okay. So I hope it is clear. We will take up continue. So continue, I will put in the beginning of the loop rather than in after the other executable statements. I'll just, so continue looks like this. Now continue, what it does is it will not take you out of the loop immediately, but it will take you out of that particular iteration. We have say 1000 iterations are there. 1000 iterations, I is equal to 0, I less than 1000 is the condition. So total 1000 iterations are there. Now in the 101th iteration, okay, so I equal to 0, 100 means we are in the 101th iteration. In that iteration, only that iteration will be skipped. That means when you execute the continue statement, the remaining statements in the loop body will not be executed for that iteration. That's it. So I'll scale down my problem. I'll make it 20 or maybe 15. So I have 15 iterations, and in the 11th iteration, I don't want to print the this message. That means count equal to 10 I don't want to appear, except that everything should come. So I'll execute this. So, okay, now we are not dependent on this. No, I think I did not compile. Oh, yeah, okay, there is a problem. Okay. I'll take out. Okay. So I'm taking this up just because some other logical issue. Okay, I'm incrementing it here only. So now it should be printing from 1 to 15. So 1 to 15. So if I don't have this, I commented this. We will execute this program. From 1 to 15 it is printing. But I have a scenario that when the value of I is equal to 10, I don't want to print it. Only in that case I don't want to print. I have a specific case. I don't want to go out of the loop. At the same time, when I value is equal to 10, the counter value is equal to 10, I don't want to print. So in that case, only one iteration of the loop I want to skip. Not all the iterations and go out of the loop. I don't want to go out of the loop. Only one iteration I want to skip. So what I will do is I will use continue. Now see, counter equal to 8, counter equal to 9, then counter equal to 11 is coming. What happened when counter value is equal to 10? I have a condition here, I is equal to 10, continue. When this statement is executed, the remaining statement in that iteration will be skipped. That means this print message will not come. It will go and check for the next iteration, whether next iteration is possible or not. So continue, what it does is, it will skip the current iteration of the loop. When it is executed, it will skip the current iteration of the loop, or the remaining statements in the current iteration of the loop will be skipped. What break does is, it will take you out of the loop immediately. After 9, when counter is equal to 10, we are out of the loop. That is what break is doing. What continue does is, only that particular iteration is skipped. Counter equal to 10 is not coming, but remaining iterations are going to happen. Any doubt? Any question? Otherwise, we'll just see one more time. This step-by-step execution. We'll see what happens. Okay. We'll take the window. Watch the window also. Let the window be here. Let the window be here. Okay, let the window be here. So enter an integer. Okay. Now we are starting. I is equal to 1, 1 is printed. I is equal to 2, 2 is printed. I equal to 3, 3 is printed. I is equal to 4, 4 is printed. This is going to keep on happening until I is equal to 9. No problem. It is printed. Now I is equal to 10. I is now 10. You can see here. And if I is 10 equal to 10 is true, we are going to execute this. Only in this case, first time we are executing continue. And what you see, it directly goes here. Execution directly goes. That means that iterations remaining statements are skipped. Because of that, we don't get counter equal to 10 here. Now we go into this loop. I becomes 11. 11 equal to 10 is false. We don't execute continue. We go to the next iteration. So continue is executed only once when I is equal to 10, and in that case the remaining statement in the loop body for that iteration is not executed. Understood? So to simply speaking, break will take you out of the entire loop immediately. Continue will take you out of the current iteration, and without executing the remaining statements in the current iteration, it will proceed to the next iteration of the loop. That's it. Any question? I think with that we are, if you have any question please ask. With that we are more or less done with the looping mechanisms. Break and continue comes under SLE, but still you will require it in lab. That's why I was explaining it, to understand the lab programs and do it. That's it. Now maybe theoretically there is some topic, exit control loop and entry control loop, and the difference between entry control and exit control loop. Entry control loop is while loop and for loop. Before entering the loop body, we are checking the condition. If the condition is true, execute the loop body, again go and check the condition. So beginning of the loop we have the test condition, that is called entry control loop. Exit control loop is do while loop. First the body of the loop is executed, then check for the condition. If the condition is true, execute it one more time. So minimum one time the body of the loop will be executed in case of exit control loop. This is exit control loop, and minimum number of times entry control loop will be entry control loop will be executed is 0. That means first time itself, if the condition is false, it will not execute the body even at least once. So minimum number of execution for a entry control loop can be 0. Minimum number of execution of the body of the exit control loop will be at least 1. Some differences are there. Difference between entry control loop and exit control loop. Those things can be asked in exam. Differentiate and draw this diagram, etc. Yeah. The flow chart. This is basically the flow chart of entry control loop and exit control loop. Condition checking is in diamond symbol. Happens at the end of the, after the body of the loop. Here, before the body of the loop. As soon as you enter, first the test condition is happening. Okay, I think that is for the day. Any question so far about any topic we discussed in looping? So control statements, branching statement was there, and if else, nested if, all those things, switch. Now looping statement. With that, control statements are more or less over. So next class we will start with a new topic. If no question, we will stop it here. Thank you. See you in the next class.